After 5 years of working 80-hour weeks in a tiny, windowless apartment, I finally checked my bank account and saw $320,000. It was supposed to be my down payment, my fresh start. But when my card was declined for a $12 coffee, my world shattered. My own parents hadn't just drained every single penny. They had opened 3 illegal lines of credit in my name and racked up $500,000 in debt. They thought I was the quiet, obedient daughter who would take the hit to protect family honor. They even invited me to a lavish celebratory dinner at a 5-star steakhouse to toast their new luxury lifestyle, paid for with my stolen life savings. My lawyer begged me to file a police report right then, but I had a far better plan. They wanted a family dinner? I gave them a night they will never forget. Before we dive in, drop a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. I'm Chloe, 27 years old, and for 5 years, my life was nothing more than work, sleep, and sacrifices. While my friends were taking vacations, buying designer clothes, and going to upscale dinners, I was surviving in a tiny, windowless studio apartment, eating instant noodles and working 80 hours a week as a software project manager. Every single dollar I made had a purpose. I was building my escape hatch, a $320,000 nest egg meant for a down payment on my dream home and absolute financial independence. My parents, Richard and Eleanor, always made sure I knew where I stood. I was the responsible one, the one who was expected to handle her own problems quietly. My younger brother, Julian, on the other hand, was the golden child. Julian was 24, unemployed, and lived like a trust fund prince. If Julian wanted a new sports car or a luxury trip, my parents would bend over backward to make it happen, constantly preaching to me about family unity whenever I questioned his endless handouts. I tolerated the favoritism because I knew my hard work would eventually pay off. But my entire world fractured on a rainy Tuesday morning. I stopped by a local cafe to grab a simple $12 coffee before work. I tapped my debit card against the reader.
Declined.
Thinking it was a system glitch, I tapped it again. Declined. I opened my banking app right there at the counter, expecting a minor error. Instead, my stomach plummeted. My balance read 0. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely type my password to log into my detailed portal. Every single penny from my primary savings account, $320,000, was gone. Wiped out across 4 massive wire transfers over the past 3 weeks.
Panic suffocated me.
I rushed straight to a forensic financial investigator, praying it was a sophisticated overseas hack. But the reality was far more sinister. The investigator sat me down, his expression heavy, and pointed to the authorization documents. The transfers hadn't come from a stranger in a dark basement. They had come from my mother, Eleanor. Years ago, when I started college, she had insisted on being a joint signer on a starter account. I had stopped using it long ago, assuming it was closed, but she kept it active. Using my social security number and forged electronic signatures, she had moved my life savings into that joint account and emptied it. It didn't stop there. Further digging revealed she and my father had opened 3 high-limit credit cards in my name, racking up another $180,000 in fraudulent debt. $500,000 stolen to finance Julian's new luxury sports car, designer clothes, and a prepaid country club membership. My phone buzzed on the investigator's desk. A text from my mother. Chloe, darling. We're hosting a celebratory dinner tonight at Prime 112 Steakhouse at 7 p.m. for Julian's new business venture. You must come. They had ruined my life, and now they were inviting me to celebrate. At 7 sharp, I walked into Prime 112 Steakhouse, my pulse roaring in my ears. The air smelled of seared wagyu and dark mahogany, a playground for the wealthy paid for with my stolen life's work. I spotted them immediately at a secluded corner booth. My father, Richard, was wearing a tailored Italian suit, swirling a glass of vintage scotch that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Beside him, my mother was practically glowing, dripping in brand new diamond jewelry that sparkled under the soft amber lights. And then there was Julian. My 24-year-old brother sat with an insufferable, triumphant smirk, casually twirling a set of high-end sports car keys on his index finger. Chloe, sweetie, you made it. My mother cooed, pulling me into a suffocating hug loaded with synthetic affection.
Sit.
We've already ordered the Grand Seafood Tower. We're celebrating Julian, my father chimed in, his tone booming with unearned pride. He's officially launching his corporate consulting firm. A true businessman in the making. Julian leaned back, puffing his chest out.
Yes, sis.
Big moves. You know how it is, you gotta spend money to make real money. The new office space in downtown is incredible. I stared at the three of them, watching them laugh and toast with $1,000 wine. They weren't just unbothered by what they'd done. They were reveling in it. They looked at me not as a daughter or a sister, but as their personal, silent cash cow. I took a deep breath, smoothing down my dress as I slid into the leather booth across from them. I forced a polite, curious smile to my face, playing the part of the unsuspecting, dutiful daughter. That's amazing, Julian, I said, keeping my voice smooth and light. A downtown office and a new car? Business must be incredible. How did you manage to get all the capital together so fast? My mother instantly waved her hand in dismissive brushstrokes, though a flicker of tension crossed her eyes. Oh, you know your father and me, sweetie. Family comes first. When your brother has a vision, we do whatever it takes to support him. Whatever it takes, I repeated softly. Must have taken a massive chunk of savings. My father took a slow sip of his scotch, leaning forward with a patronizing, fatherly grin. Chloe, money comes and goes. What's yours is ours, and what's ours is the family's. You've always been stable with your little job, but Julian has real potential for greatness. You should be proud to see your family thriving. They genuinely believed I was too weak, too conditioned by years of obedience to ever stand up to them. They thought I'd swallow the debt and cry in silence to protect the family honor. As the waiter arrived and my father ordered the most expensive dry-aged steaks on the menu, I reached into my bag. I quietly pulled out a thick, sealed manila folder and set it dead center on the table. The waiter bowed politely and stepped away, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. My mother glanced down at the manila folder sitting between the fine crystal and silver cutlery. "What's this, Chloe?" she asked, her voice carrying a nervous laugh. "Is it a congrats card for your brother?" "Not quite," I replied, sliding the folder toward my father. "Open it." Richard frowned, his thick brow furrowing as he pulled out the contents. The color drained from his face instantly. Inside were color-coded printouts of 4 massive wire transfers, copies of forged electronic signatures, and a forensic audit detailing the $320,000 drained from my savings, alongside $180,000 racked up across 3 fraudulent credit cards in my name. Julian leaned over to look, his cocky smirk vanishing into thin air. What is this?" "It's $500,000 of felony identity theft," I said, my voice razor-sharp and perfectly calm. "You 3 thought you pulled off the perfect heist to fund Julian's Playboy fantasy." "Chloe, don't be dramatic," my mother hissed, leaning in close and looking around frantically. "We're your parents. We were going to pay it back once Julian's firm took off." "No, you weren't," I countered, pulling a second set of papers from my purse. And that brings me to my second surprise. While investigating my stolen money, my forensic investigator uncovered where Dad got the seed money for Julian's lease. "You've been embezzling from your own employer's charity fund through Julian's shell company for over a year, haven't you, Dad?" My father started sweating profusely, his hands trembling so violently he dropped his scotch glass, sending it rattling against the table. The smug, untouchable family was suddenly suffocating in their own lies. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, no words coming out. My mother looked as if she might faint right into her linen napkin. "Here's how this night ends," I said, sliding 3 thick legal documents and a sleek silver pen across the white tablecloth. "These are full, legally binding confession letters and asset surrender agreements drawn up by my attorney." Julian stared at the pen as if it were a venomous snake. "And if we don't sign?" "If you don't sign before the waiter brings your check," I said, leaning in and lowering my voice to a dangerous whisper, "my lawyer, who is sitting in a black sedan right across the street, will press send on a digital package. It contains every single forensic bank record, every forged document, and every embezzlement proof. It goes directly to the district attorney, the police department, and your employer's board of directors, Dad. Chloe, please, my mother whimpered, tears enfin ruining her expensive mascara. You'd send your own father and brother to prison? Over money? You traded my entire future for a sports car and a steak dinner. I snapped back, my gaze unwavering. Sign the papers. You will liquidate Julian's car tomorrow morning. You will sell the country club membership, place your home on the market, and surrender full control of your assets to an independent trustee until every single cent, plus interest and attorney fees, is returned to me. With trembling hands and sweat pouring down his face, my father picked up the pen. He signed first, followed by a terrified Julian, and finally my mother. Right there in the middle of that five-star restaurant, in front of the elite staff, they signed away their dignity to save themselves from handcuffs. Just as my mother placed the pen down, the waiter returned with the $2,500 dinner bill, sliding it onto the table with a polite smile. I picked up my purse, stood up, and looked down at the three broken people sitting in front of me. You can pay for this with whatever cash you have left, I said quietly. I'm done funding your lives. I turned and walked out into the cool night air, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Over the next 6 months, the trustee liquidated Julian's car, sold their luxury items, and refinanced their house. Every dollar was returned to my accounts, clearing my credit and restoring my life savings. I cut ties with them completely and bought my dream home, a sunlit bungalow near the coast. I finally built the life I sacrificed 5 years for, entirely on my own terms. Standing up to toxic family is never easy, but protecting your future is always worth it. What would you have done in my place? Would you have given them a second chance to pay it back, or sent them straight to prison? Comment below.